When you buy furniture from Wayfair, you're not just getting furniture, you're setting your home up for a lifetime of memories. Visit wayfair.ca today or download the Wayfair app. Furniture made for all of life's moments. That's Wayfair.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
That is James Mennie. He is over at the Montreal Gazette, and we are going to talk about a couple of stories in the news today before we get back to our Caring for Kids radiothon. So, Jim, I don't know if you heard at the beginning of the show, but I was talking about the fact that there's been a bit of a change now, which makes me think that we're either getting closer or we're more concerned, maybe, that we can't get a deal done, because all of a sudden, Dominic LeBlanc and Janice Charest, who've been doing most of the negotiating, showed up with extras today, including Anita Anand, I think the PM's chief of staff as well, right? Marc-André Chartrand, and also Mark Wiseman, another negotiator. So I'm trying to wonder what that means. Is that a good sign or a bad sign? What do you think?
I don't think they're throwing in extra people to try and salvage anything. In fact, I think maybe they may see an opening there that they want to exploit. I don't know if you saw that nice Scott Bessent on TV today, talking about the disastrous jobs report, that yet another disastrous jobs report that the U.S. got hit with, and saying, well, that's not a big deal because, we've closed the border and we've cut down on immigration, so we don't need all those jobs. This is what the guy said. Wow. That's where the U.S. is right now, and I think right now they need a win. They need some kind of win, or they need one less irritant. But I got to tell you that above and beyond everything else, and it's become clear, we had a nice taste of it from Wab Kinew, the Premier of Manitoba. This is out of Trump's hands. It's out of Carney's hands. And when you try and do this topic on the show, it's out of anybody's hands. Canadians, Quebecers, Montrealers, our listeners have decided they're not going to buy American booze. Nobody turned around. No premier, no politician said, oh, by the way, boycott travel to the U.S. But guess what? It happened. It's still happening. Right. And there was no as we say in these parts, élément déclencheur, other than the fact that Donald Trump is a Class A jerk. He is an annoyance to Canadians. He's a man they love to hate. And they're making it clear with their wallets just how much they detest this guy. So it's great to talk about, well, if this comes down and gee, what's going on behind the scenes? What's real is that this concession that we're being told about in terms of bringing back, having the premiers agree to bring back U.S. merchandise onto liquor store shelves, that's really swell. But I think a lot of Quebecers and Canadians, and they're not mutually exclusive, folks, before you text, listen, they've already made up their minds, and it's not going to happen. And I think this is one of the more fascinating things about life with Donald Trump. Even, and I'll be optimistic, Aaron, and say when we get a deal, things are not going to change. That quiet but very surly Canadian boycott of not just American booze, but American goods. There's a bit of a hubbub on social media today because it looks like Loblaws is reducing the amount of signage it has to indicate Canadian products, but people are still shopping for it. And the other thing, as much as it's great to thump your chest and look up longingly at the Canadian maple leaf and say I'm a patriot, the other thing for a shopper, a Canadian shopper, I don't know about you, buddy, it seems a day doesn't go by that there are not at least 2 or 3 major food recalls in the States because of an apparent lack of oversight. And today it's killer blueberries. That's right, folks. You heard that right. Wow. Killer blueberries. Okay. Never mind the millions of eggs that they were picking up last week. So I think a lot of people are just saying, never mind Trump. I don't feel like winding up in the ER with a bad case of whatever. So you know what? I'm not going to touch anything that comes from the States. So all of this, I think, combines, Aaron, into this kind of politician-proof movement. And what I find intriguing, Aaron, is that once this is over, one way or another, I wonder if there's an off switch on this, or if there ever will be an off switch on this.
So what do you mean when you say an off switch in terms of when we're not negotiating over something?
No. The Canadians are going to go, oh, you know what? It's all over.
Oh, we're okay to buy U.S. I see.
Let me buy all those American or Florida oranges and whatever and blah, blah. I'm not entirely sure that's ever going to happen.
It would seem to me, Jim, as you're describing this, the bigger hurdle is going to be selling this to Canadians, even if we do get a deal.
Oh, absolutely. But the thing is, and when you have the Premier of Manitoba saying, we'll put it on, but folks don't buy it. I think the fix is already in. Yeah. And my other concern is when this trickles back to Trump, and of course it will, Will he look at this as negotiating in bad faith? Will he look at this as an excuse to impose further tariffs? And then we go back to square one, because everyone, and we've certainly heard scores of people say this on the show, is that you can't trust the guy anyway. We've got nothing to lose. So you know what? The hell with him. I'm not buying his food. I'm not buying his country's goods. And that's all there is to it. So once we do find out whatever concessions Canada has made in exchange for whatever concessions the U.S. has made, I'm sure there'll be a lot of pundits going, well, yeah, but look at this. This is not really balanced or whatever. I think the bottom line here is a lot of Canadians who do have skin in this game are just going to turn around and say, do what you want. Just understand, I'm not touching anything from the States, and that's all there. That's my negotiation. Anything that's from the States, I'm not spending a dime on. Whether it's travel, whether it's goods, whether it's services, whether it's food, it ain't going to happen. And this is not just some passing fancy. This is for real stuff. This has been going on for weeks and months. And as I say, I don't really know once this has started, what it's going to take south of the border to turn around and convince people to drop everything that they've been building up over all this time against Trump.
Jim, what's your best guess, though? We have a Saturday deadline at midnight. What do you think happens? I mean, if you had to guess right now, based on what you've seen.
Oh, he's going to lift the tariffs on steel and aluminum. They'll get their booze back. I'm sure we're going to see some other things that you and I haven't even thought about, because these tariffs are so vast, and they cover so many different products that we can't even sort of foresee who wins and who loses. But let's not lose sight of the fact as well that Donald Trump's tariffs. Oh, it's terrible. He's putting tariffs on Canadian goods. Americans are paying for those tariffs.
Right.
Okay. Presuming they're still buying it. I'm unaware of any organized American boycott of Canadian goods and services. So until that happens, I think they'll be happy. Americans, and was it 2 days ago, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce begged Trump, leave Canada alone, because we are such a huge trading partner. So these people will turn around and say, no, Trump's got all the cards, we've got to bend the knee. No. Things are not going well south of the border, and the simple optics for a lot of ordinary Americans who don't even think about Canada, but are saying, why are you expending all this energy on Canada? I think that may catch up, not necessarily with Trump, who I think is getting in worse shape every day, but his entourage may realize, you know what, this game ain't worth the candle. Let's not cave, but let's make some concessions and make this Canadian thing go away.
To your point, by the way, the Dow was down 700 points today in the U.S. on that jobs report, right? So there is some domestic issues that he's at some point you think have to start dealing with. Jim, I want you to just entertain my silly notion today, okay? When I saw that these extra Canadian diplomats had gone down, right? We mentioned off the top to help Dominic LeBlanc, I guess, and Janice Charest. I said, whenever you hear Donald Trump talk about Canada, right? And he said, some great Canadians, right? Who does he always mention? One guy.
Wayne Gretzky.
Wayne Gretzky. And I thought if we could get Wayne Gretzky to go down there with the Canadian delegation, we could probably get a trade deal done even faster.
For a second there, you have me a little scared, and I hate to say this, but to give me the inspiration. But maybe the CJAD singers might have something to say about this.
Well, there you go. All right. I want to move on and talk about the other story today concerning Eric Duhem. You call it sing-along nationalism. What's this about?
He wants Quebec to have a national anthem, okay? I'm not making this up. The guy has gone full-blown populist. He is, we're going to be autonomous, Quebec first. He's running his campaign in Quebec City. Everyone's running their campaign in Quebec City. They want to be plus Quebec que les Québécois. And this guy, baby bonuses. Honestly, Aaron, I had to pinch myself and wonder if it was 1957, because the way this guy is campaigning is so great. I have actually a post about his campaign, and someone took a picture during the launch, and a lot of his campaign photos are in black and white, which is absolutely perfect. You expect to see him paving a highway next. It's like amazing, just amazing. But and you can agree with every single syllable this guy says, but my hat's off to him. He's campaigning. He's out there. He's, to speak hockeyese, he's grinding out there. And if he doesn't do well, it won't be because of a lack of effort or being very straight up front and realizing you have got to talk to people every single day. And thus far, he seems to be the only candidate who actually has realized this. Not sniping at your opposition. Not turning around to Frechette and saying, "Oh, you should have been more involved in the negotiation." People aren't even thinking about that right now. But the idea that, you know what, if you're young, you can't afford a house, you have a kid, I'm going to give you a huge tax break. That might strike a bell with somebody who's coming off of a hard day and coming home to their spouse, realizing that right now our horizon doesn't really extend past the walls of this overpriced apartment.
Yeah, but to your point, you remember back not that long ago, right, when declining birth rates, they were giving out money to people to have kids. How is this different from that?
I think the idea that you're being told this is going to help. I mean, what he's doing, what Dan is doing, is giving people hope. And you know what? That's worth a lot more than a 550-page blue book on a theoretical Quebec, independent Quebec. He's telling people, you do this, we know you want to start. And a lot of people do they just don't have the money. And, he's saying, if that's stopping you, you have a kid, we're the government, we're going to give you a huge tax break. And quite frankly, in this jurisdiction, any tax break is a huge tax break. So really, he gets it. Will it stand up to scrutiny? Will he be hammered on it during the leaders' debates? I'm not entirely sure. But I got to tell you right now, between the last Leger poll and the next, I really think you're going to see some real movement, some numbers.
James Mennie at the Montreal Gazette. Jim, thank you.
Matt.
Canadian women are looking for more out of themselves, their businesses, their elected leaders, and the world around them.
And that's why we're thrilled to introduce the Honest Talk podcast.
I'm Jennifer Stewart.
And I'm Catherine Clark. And in this podcast, we interview Canada's most inspiring women.
Entrepreneurs, artists, athletes, politicians, and newsmakers, all at different stages of their journey.
So if you're looking to connect, then we hope you'll join us.
Listen to the Honest Talk podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you listen to your podcasts.